Welcome to the World of Concrete 360's Industry Influencer video series. I'm Bill Palmer. I'm the editor of worldofconcrete360.com. With us today is Cesar Constantino, who was recently named Chairman of the Board of Directors of ASTM International. Cesar is the Director of Business Development for Separation Technologies, a Titan America business in Deerfield Beach, Florida. As Cesar reminded me, he is the first ASTM board president from the concrete industry for more than 15 years, and the first who is originally from Latin America. So, Cesar, congratulations on your chairmanship of ASTM. That's a big deal for you and for the concrete industry.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate those kind words.
So, tell us, why are standards important for the construction industry?
Bill, standards are very important. And I would argue not only in the concrete industry, but let's dive directly into the concrete industry. I will say that standards play a significant role, starting with safety. And safety is number one when you talk about construction, right? And therefore, I'll start with the fact that hard hats, vests, boots, everything that we see on a job site in this day and age pretty much goes back to safety and then standards behind them. Of course, ASTM being an active player in standards on those. So let's think of it as important from the very beginning of the concept of construction. Then second to that, I would argue that it's consumer confidence. When you look at the quality of the construction, many times what we looked at is, does it comply with a certain specification? Does it meet this, that, or the other? And many of those are standards, right? We look at making sure that whether it's concrete, steel, gypsum board, whatnot, does it meet a certain determined set of characteristics? And those are, again, all standards driven. So from the standpoint of safety and quality, that's number one as to why they matter. Okay. From that point forward, allow me to add that it is also very important to have standards because those are the ones that enable growth in the industry. When you have new materials, new materials that are based on standards tend to be able to be specified, and therefore then they have a quicker adoption into market. And so standards is for what we have, what we're working on, and then very important for growth of new technologies and new products into the construction industry.
Okay, that makes sense. So why is ASTM involved with concrete standards? Why isn't it all just done through ACI?
That's a good point, and I'm glad you bring it up because it's really all about collaboration, Bill. When you look at the role that ACI, the American Concrete Institute, plays, so important in all the construction, and particularly concrete construction, that goes very much hand in hand with the standards from ASTM, in that ASTM feeds a number of standards related to materials themselves. For example, you heard me talk about steel. You heard me talk about, it could be carbon fibers. It could be anything that goes in construction, from the materials and materials characteristics, or the measurement of certain characteristics. All those are ASTM standards based. Now, how do you get these to work together? And how does that become a building? How that becomes infrastructure, superstructures, infrastructure? That's all about ACI. And so there's this very strong knit collaboration between these entities and others for sure. But the role they play are essential. Again, one on the specifics of the materials and tests, and the other one in the bringing it together.
ASTM, I know, has a lot of standards. Are they used outside of the United States, or is it strictly an American thing?
Good point, Bill. It's interesting that because ASTM International used to be, considered American, because that A in the very beginning, was like American, thought of as an American. Truly, it's international. ASTM and emphasis on international has to do with the fact that these are standards that are developed under World Trade Organization frameworks. And so openness, transparency, participation from all stakeholders. I mean, there are a number of criteria that all are compliant with ASTM International. Therefore, standards by definition become international in how they develop. And then more importantly is how they become adopted. All the standards are voluntary upon publication, but it's not until they are adopted in a certain jurisdiction for compliance, that's when they become now enforceable, and following them becomes essential in different parts of the world. And I will tell you that about half of the utilization and distribution of ASTM standards occurs outside the United States. I will also say that about a third of the membership of ASTM International is from members from throughout the world. And ASTM International has over 120 memorandums of understandings with different countries throughout the world for providing access to the standards. And already more than 8,000 ASTM standards are actually adopted in jurisdiction for compliance outside the United States. So very much an international standards development organization with international reach, where now we have offices in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and recently an established chapter in the Middle East as well.
So that allows everyone to be, I guess, on the same page, basically, in terms of what the material properties are. Is that true?
Yes, the whole concept here is if we're going to be in a globe where materials are going to be flowing in different directions from one continent to the other in terms of import, exports, trade. If you use steel, as I said earlier, and you want to bring that from somewhere else, that manufacturing pretty much finds ASTM standard of one way to be compatible in the construction industry in different geographies. And so you have these members working on standards, so everybody's on the same page, and everybody then can benefit from the flow of goods and services.
Now, Cesar, I'm sure you know that from our past experience that I've always been a strong proponent of being actively involved in association works. And you obviously are involved with ASTM, and I know you've been on ACI committees. Why do you think that's important? What's it done for you personally and in your career to be involved with the various group associations?
Bill, the story of my life when it comes to entities and associations and working with groups such as ACI and ASTM International is it's all about learning. I've called these opportunities door openers in the past, and I just see that participation on these voluntary committees, it's basically a door open to post-university, right? I went to the university, I had a degree, but it doesn't stop there. And so for me, it's been very rewarding. It basically gets an open forum where I can reach out to other experts. I can bounce ideas as to concepts, things that I'm thinking, how can I enhance my thought process in some areas? And so collaboration becomes the name of the word, but it's a door opener. Fundamentally, that then in my mind it's just a post-university. You keep learning and you keep engaging other experts throughout the world. So very important dynamic going on there. And as we go forward, I do envision that this opening of doors is what's going to get us to build on a global platform to adopt bold objectives such as sustainability globally that then need to be adopted and applied locally in all the different countries.
Well, you've said that you think that sustainability and environmental issues, I guess, are really important to the construction industry. Tell us a little about what Separation Technologies is and what you do.
Absolutely. Separation technologies is it's a story that I hope I can repeat many times. Separation technologies has been in the business of the circular economy for many years. It's over 20 years now, and it has actually processed and beneficiated over tens of millions of tons of otherwise deemed material for disposal. And when you have an industry, particularly the coal power generation, that has this legacy fly ash burden in terms of material that it's in landfills or ponds, well, separation technologies does two things. First, it can take the fresh ash and then process it with this proprietary technology, and then create co-products that both find new value and then get recycled, basically. So you stop the landfilling or ponding of this material. And then if you already have a legacy pond or ash basin, for example, upon drying, then the material can be again beneficiated then for recycling. And it all goes into the construction industry. Basically, these materials become supplementary cementitious materials that can actually be brought into the concrete mix and help optimize the cement consumption. So now you can be much more efficient in your concrete mix designs for purposes of the construction industry. And I'll expand on this because the separation technology has been used in fly ash for all these years. More recently has expanded into other minerals, and more so in the feed sector in this day and age. So you can imagine now this same technology can actually take feed material from pressed seeds after you're extracting oil for some of the seeds, for example, and then that residue can then be processed in the two co-products. One will be fiber rich, one will be protein rich, and now you have feed for various applications. So same technology, and now we're expanding over not just the cement and concrete industry, but others. Very interesting, and that's what I'm saying. I wish I could keep repeating the separation technology story for quite a while.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Yeah, it's fly ash, coal ash is really a miracle material, isn't it? I mean, it's not only are we keeping it out of the environment, taking it back and reusing waste material, we're improving the properties of concrete in doing so.
Absolutely. It actually helps the concrete to perform better over the long term. And in fact, there's some concretes that without fly ash are going to struggle in terms of delivering, whether it's freshly mixed properties or hardening stage properties or hardened concrete stage properties. As they say, we're going to have to invent a new fly ash. The good point, however, as I said before, is that there are over 1 billion tons of fly ash in landfills in just in North America alone. And to that end, we don't need all that at once, right? With technology, including separation technologies, for example, that material can be again processed and brought back to the sector. So even if you stop fresh ash generation, those are resources now in our different geographies throughout the United States where we could tap into that and then be brought back to the surface.
Well, as you know, the cement and concrete industry has often gotten kind of a bad rap in terms of the environment. But so do you think that we can, especially the cement industry, can turn itself into truly a sustainable and environmentally friendly material?
Well, I say strongly yes. I think the cement and concrete industry, let me start by saying, I think we already have a sustainable product. The critical element here is to draw a boundary as what we're trying to assess as what is or isn't sustainable. But I'll share with you briefly, sustainability is not just the environmental dimension, but also the social and economic dimensions. And when you look at the impact on the construction industry and the cement and concrete specifically within the construction industry, and you look at the engine that it is for the economy, it's critical. In fact, during the pandemic, we deemed the construction sector as one of the necessary ones to keep rolling. It is that important. And we play a role in the cement and concrete sector in that dimension. So strong plus on the economic driver. On the social driver, absolutely. Yeah, we've got hospitals, schools, bridges, roads, all of which perform each and every day to make our lives better. And so from the social aspect as well, I'll say I'd like to be in a concrete home, under extreme events. I'm safer there, and I can sustain, these extreme weathers, for example, in concrete homes, concrete buildings. So from the social and economic pillars, I think we have a strong case. And of course, we're working hard on the environmental dimension, primarily on decarbonization. And decarbonization is where a lot of the efforts has been put in place. And a lot of progress has happened since the 1990s, and a lot more to come. Currently, we're working on a 2050 roadmap for concrete net zero, as we frame it, and on that particular dimension on the environmental side, decarbonization. So it's a firm belief on my part that I say yes. We may have a bad rep, but when we draw the boundary as to what cement and concrete does for us, I think we have a strong case for sustainability, and I would argue resilience coupled with that sustainability.
Okay, well, thank you for talking with us this morning. Good luck in the rest of your term as ASTM chair, and I'll hopefully see you at ACI.
Absolutely, Bill. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and I welcome the opportunity to connect again. Stay safe.
Thanks, Cesar.